Bat Force Radio.
Bat Force Radio is rated M for mature, or should that be immature?
Hey guys, Dustin Wint.
Hey, this is Scott Snyder.
This is Paul Dini.
And you're listening to Bat Force Radio.
And you're listening to Bat Force Radio.
You're listening to Bat Force Radio.
This is Kevin Conroy, the voice of Batman, and you're listening to Bat Force Radio, so stay tuned.
Welcome back to Bat Force Radio. We have a full house tonight. I'll give you a minute to sing the song for a second in your head. We've got Bat Force Tom in California.
Oh, cheers.
Grandpa Batman in Texas.
Howdy.
Teasus in Jersey.
Yo.
Legends in California.
Good morning.
Good morning. And I'm Robin Cross in Canada. And this week's returning guest is giving us something very different come September 6th. So Bermejo has just completed a future legendary run of variant covers on Detective Comics, beginning at issue 1019 and ending at, I believe, 1062. And with my horrible math, 44 covers, I think. And that is now being collected into 56 pages of Batman Dear Detective, which I'll let him explain this better than me, but assorts all of those images into their proper intended narrative order, along with some dialogue of sorts. And we will all get to see that collection printed in the big black label prestige format size come September 6th. Welcome back to the show to tell us about it, Mr. Bermejo.
Thanks for having me back.
Thank you. How you doing?
Always a pleasure. Good. I'm doing good.
In the midst of con season, everything here. Have you done a lot of traveling so far this con season?
No, I haven't done any at all, man. This Fan Expo in Canada will be my first show in 3 years. So yeah, I'm equally anxious and excited at the same time. It's like, it'll be an experiment. Let's just put it that way.
That's great. You weren't at San Diego this year. I think myself and maybe a lot of other people just assume that everyone is at San Diego.
Yeah. A lot of people thought I was in, even you messaged me, but like a couple other people messaged me too after that to ask me if I was in Lake Como, which I didn't either. Which is only like an hour and a half, 2 hours away from me. So, I suppose that's probably why they thought I would be there. But yeah, this Fan Expo will be my first foray into this new world, man.
Yeah, Lake Como was one of the ones. Yeah, I did message you about that because I had people messaging me asking me if he was going to be like, well, is he announced for it? Well, no, but then they would probably have announced him if he was going to be there. But anyway, I gave a horrible explanation of Dear Detective, but
no, it works, man.
Would you care to explain? So, because you obviously had this planned somewhere along the line of creating those covers, what was the process of putting all this together?
So I got offered the gig, and I thought this was a few years ago, and I thought I just did a big Batman project, and I was kind of testing the waters with DC too, because everything in DC was very much in a state of flux. So I thought this should be cool. It's Detective Comics. It's, to me, like the flagship book, even if everybody loves Batman. Detective Comics is DC Comics to me. So I thought, let me see if I can do this. And actually that year in Boston, at the Boston convention, I was there with Pete Tomasi and Brian Azzarello, and I was talking to Pete Tomasi, who was the writer of Detective at the time, and I said, I think I'm going to try to tell a story with these covers. And like a loose story, you know what I mean? Not something necessarily that, would be traditionally sequential when you break it down, but something a bit more open. And Tomasi, I remember thought, I'm not sure if that's a good idea. It might take attention away from the story that's going on inside the book. And I thought, I don't know how that can happen, because, by the time all the covers kind of come out and people realize that there's something else going on here, people will have read and consumed those issues. And you know what I mean? So I kind of just kept pursuing it and just doing it for myself. I didn't even think at the time that there would be a book. I just kind of was, it to me was my way in to doing these covers, like I'll start with a series of kind of more iconic images. And I knew that I wanted it to be, at the time, I wanted it to be kind of like a day in the life of Batman, you know what I mean? What he does. So you'd have the series of covers where he's gearing up in the Batcave. You'd have the cover where he's going out, to respond to the bat signal, and then you'd have him going to the crime scene and investigating. And that was the original plan. And I knew they'd be out of order, because I knew there'd be no way to do that and still fulfill even vaguely, because not all my covers are referential to what's going on in the issue. But I thought sometimes I'll have to do a character, you know what I mean? Or I'll have to do a cover that is more reflective of what the story in the issue is. So I just started kind of doing it in my breaking it down in my head that way. And, at that time it was kind of let's see if DC eventually lets me collect these. But if I tell them right now that that's what I'm doing, no one at DC is going to let me do this, because I could already see the gears turning right away. There would be like, well, why would we pay you your cover rate for a book eventually that we could pay you a smaller page rate for? So there was all these other kind of factors that I knew bureaucratically would never fly. So I just kind of did it. And as the series progressed, editors changed hands because a bunch of people got fired and then or left, So the book kept changing hands, and I just kept kind of doing what I was doing. And I think it was about last year, maybe around May or April or something, when I kind of finally said, I'm going to pitch this. And I'd done enough covers at that point in time that I thought I could make my case. And luckily at the time that they responded to it. And I pitched it as a Alex Ross sized book, those like Paul Dini, Alex Ross. Mm-hmm. I think those are 60 pages or something. And so I pitched it as that. And apparently those books don't sell, or at least that's what they eventually told me. But that's how the book was pitched. And so like then it came down to me like finishing the run, and part of finishing that run was getting everything I needed to eventually be able to fit in the story. So like the last cover I did, I was originally going to do that. That was going to be like the 5th or 6th cover that I did in the book. And I just kept waiting to do that, like that last image, or maybe not the last, the second to last image. Because I think the last image in the book is shirtless Bruce. But yeah, I mean, I had kind of this vague idea of what the story was going to be. And then, of course, like I said, you run into that moment in time where the editor says, well, we need the Riddler in this issue, or we need Mr. Hyde, or these characters that I'm maybe not as familiar with. We need the Huntress. And so it came down to me saying, well, if I'm going to tell this kind of evergreen, iconic Batman quote unquote story, it should feature all the villains. Because like he should, if this thing is from the point of view of this Zodiac kind of like letter to Batman, the suspect list should be all the, bad guys you can think of. And if this person is taunting Batman, he would be taunting Batman, also threatening everybody who he, who he holds dear. So that gave me the way in to do all the villains and then do the Robins and his kind of journey with all the allies. And so, yeah, it became this kind of organism that started to kind of change over time. But the thing that remained the same from the beginning was pretty much this idea that I wanted the narration aspect of this book to be that Zodiac kind of letter. You know what I mean? Actually the Jack the Ripper kind of letter was the real inspiration.
So how far into the run do you think you were when you got to the point where you decided, okay, I'm going to have to think about what images I need to be able to complete this?
I mean, I had, when I started out, I jotted down maybe 15 images that I wanted to do. So I had there's that cover of him coming down the fire escape, and there's the two windows, and he's seeing what's behind those windows. Yeah. So I knew I had that image. Originally, it was going to be a woman tied up, and I couldn't do that. So there were some changes that I kind of had to make editorially as I went, because apparently women don't get tied up anymore. You know what I mean? There's all this kind of stuff that you have to deal with editorially, but it's cool. In the end, I don't think it changes anything. I had all those, up to the point where he rescues the kid. I kind of had that, you know what I mean? I kind of had the Jim Gordon moment that I wanted to do with him at the bat signal, which connected to him jumping down. And originally then that was going to cut to him landing, there was all this kind of connective tissue that I had. And then I kind of the kind of fun part of it was at a certain point, I could kind of start moving pieces around the board a little bit. You know what I mean? And I could think, well, if this kind of also works over here, and maybe, just breaking down the story and wanting the writing, the narration pages to fall on the left hand side of the book, that added some wrinkles and some problems to solve. But ultimately it was just something that kind of kept evolving, the whole Arkham sequence at the end, which was actually perfect. That was all from the book. They were doing something in Arkham at the time. I forget what it was. And so I thought, oh, perfect. After the villain sequences, the whole point of this should be that he spends all his time locking these people up, and but inevitably they just escape again. You know what I mean? Or they just, So I thought that was a cool kind of sequence to cap off, kind of show the futility of what he does to a certain extent. So yeah, it was the whole thing was a big experiment. I didn't know they were going to even publish it up until maybe I pitched it, I think, in June or July, and I didn't find out they were going to do the book until I think January this year. So, it was all kind of up in the air. It was it was just something really that I thought, well, maybe I can do this. Maybe it won't work. Maybe it works. I don't know, but let's try it. I've done Batman books before. Let's do something different this time,
Yeah, leave it to you to break down walls and start a new trend. And I remember when these first started coming out, I was trying to pick these up as soon as I could find them, and we were talking about it. I was like, this kind of seems like a story in a way. And then we started hearing, little rumors about that. And then I was so happy when it was confirmed, because I'll be honest, I haven't found every one of these. I did find most of them, but I haven't found all of them. And these are just beautiful covers, and I can't wait to have them all in a collected edition.
Yeah, I was kind of trying to kill two birds with one stone, collect, but at the same time make it work as something more that, if people who weren't picking these things up while they were coming out, how could I make these a replay value? You know what I mean? How could I give these kind of things a different life and again, man, it's like, you know, there's so many Batman books. there's so much product out there, you know, and at a certain point you do feel like you're just, I'm gonna do Batman again on a cover, you know, like part of it is just like, how do I entertain myself? How can I make this challenging to myself, even if it never wound up happening? You know what I mean? It was still a way in for me for these covers, you know, just like what do I do to keep myself motivated on a long run? And I just kept thinking about those Michael Golden covers, man, like those amazing covers that I think Golden did for Detective Comics, where it was like each one of those was evocative, and you know, that to me was like the gold standard for Batman covers. And, you know,
well, it kind of it almost kind of created an incentive for us as readers to collect them also, because part of what I was trying to do was put them in the order myself to what I could see what the story was. And that was kind of cool because, like you said, you could mix them around and you could almost create different storylines, you know, with how you order the titles.
Yeah, and I don't pretend for a minute that I'm like reinventing the wheel. You know what I mean? Like I think for most people, like there's, like I said, there's so much Batman product and it's so diverse that I always try to approach this like, okay, so if this is someone who's never picked up a Batman comic, or maybe someone went and saw the movie and was like, I wonder if there's like a book out there that I could get that, you know, I like the movie. Maybe there's something out there that's cool that I don't have to have a lot of prior knowledge of comics or whatever that I can pick up. And that was what I wanted this book to be. Like something that, you know, when a mom is out shopping and they want to get their kid something for, you know, that maybe their kid doesn't even like comics. I don't know, but he liked Batman, you know?
Mm-hmm.
Like I thought, what's the thing that I could do that could be on a shelf and attract someone's attention, or that a comic shop can say, hey, you don't need to know anything about this character to, you know, or you know, assuming there's still someone in the world who doesn't know Batman. You know what I mean? But I think you get what I'm saying.
Batman?
Like, yeah, what is it? It's like I've never seen.
A strong gentleman who fights crime nocturnally.
So you mentioned that there are a lot of Bat books out there. Yeah, obviously there are, but the difference with this one is every page is done at cover level, whereas any other book, you know, people are trying to meet deadlines, so you're going to have those panels where, you know, there are some faces that are looking a bit wonky and some details that are kind of glossed over, but this is very much not that. And when you first mentioned, like you had told me some time back that there was a chance that these were going to be collected into a book, and you suggested that there would be a sort of narrative sequence, I never imagined how strong the narrative sequence would be. When I actually read through this for the first time, I was really taken by surprise at how much some sections of the book are almost panel by panel, because it feels like it's flowing from one cover to the next. So,
yeah, I think sometimes it works, and like sometimes readers have to be more involved in a book like this than they have to be in a regular graphic novel, right? Like it's they have to fill in the gaps more of what happens from one image to the next. But part of me thinks that that's cool because, man, I don't, my work doesn't leave a lot to the imagination. You know, like there's not a lot of I wish I had that gene that I could do like a Mignola thing, or, you know, where people where readers are much more active in their imagination with the image. I think I pretty much spell it out for people, you know. So the only way I can involve them further is by not maybe giving them everything, but I kind of hope that when people read this, they are thinking like, well, you know, what is this sequence about? Like, what's happening in between each cover, and I think that's a powerful part of comic books as a narrative medium. You know, that it's like this this involvement that readers can have. And when I say, I always feel like I'm not really speaking the same language as a lot of those guys, it's because they do that. I feel like I don't really do that. You know what I mean? Like and so this book was, if nothing else, interesting to see if I could kind of achieve a little bit of that, you know. We'll see.
You definitely talking to your point about like thinking how to make this something that has more of kind of like a reminiscent collective quality for, you know, someone who just it captures your attention from the shelf, and so you might grab it if you weren't reading it. I personally haven't been reading like any of the Detective. I've only been grabbing it because of your covers, and I know that I'm not the only one. Like it's an incentive for people to see that there is an ongoing theme, that it's your art, so they're going to grab it anyway. But the fact that it's your art and it's an ongoing theme, and how the bonus of it being a story later on, it gives me the sense of like, what, while you're talking about it, I got the image of like the Marvel cards back in the day, you know, like
oh yeah,
you know, collecting all the Marvel cards, putting them in the. I had like nice sleeves that I would put them in, and like I had a binder full of them. That's what this reminds me of. I was picturing Gramps talking about him laying out all the covers on his floor, you know, single candle lit. He's naked, and he's kind of like, you know, he's trying to like. That's just the image I got of him trying to figure out the story. But yeah,
you're not far off.
Well, that was right before we got started here. You were saying to point out.
Was there or can you think to which, you said that like at one point someone is like, all right, you got to throw Riddler in there, and you're like, okay, well, how do I do this without them figuring out what I'm doing? All right, I'm gonna do Arkham. Was there a cover, a character, or like a layout that you thought of, and then when you started doing it, you were like, God damn it, why did I do this? Like it was such a challenge.
Oh, there was a couple covers that were a pain in the ass, man. Like that one I was mentioning with Fire Escape, that cover was brutal. That was brutal. And there was, you know, like I don't know who Mr. Hyde is. You know what I mean? When they asked me to do Mr. Hyde, I was like, who is this? Who is this guy? I've never heard of this villain before. And they were like, he's created in this run, apparently. I don't know. Even Huntress, like I'm not a huge Huntress fan. You know, they asked me to do Azrael, and I was like, nah, I'm not. I'm not into Azrael. Like I know a lot of people are, and that's cool, but I'm, you know, Azrael is not my thing. So I there was like some of those moments too where I thought, well, you know, how the hell do I make this work? And you know, it's like that's where it comes down to this. All right, I got to break down a villain section and an ally section, and that has to be a big part of this. And once I kind of had that, I thought, all right, bring it on. Like if you want the Riddler, I hate the Riddler, but you know, I'll give you the Riddler. You know what I mean? Like if it fills a spot, and like even the covers that weren't part of the Detective run, like there was that Catwoman cover I did, and the Gotham
The Catwoman
special. Yeah. I just thought, like at the end, like their Joker 80th anniversary cover, all those covers, I thought, well, I don't need to do a Joker or Catwoman cover. I've done those already, so I can just utilize those, and that fills out my kind of, villain list or whatever. And yeah, at the end of the day, it kind of started to almost like work itself out. You know what I mean? Like there was less problems to solve than I thought there would be. Because initially I thought, well, are they going to let me do some of these images? Because maybe they're going to, maybe I'm going to pitch to them like that, you know, image of Batman holding the kid, and they're going to be like, what does that have to do with anything? You know what I mean? I thought that I would get some pushback, and luckily it was part of this is their variant covers too. So I mean, you know, like that gives you a little bit more leeway, I guess.
Yeah, I don't think anyone who's read comics for any length of time goes in expecting the interior to reflect what's on the variant cover.
Yeah, no.
The point you made, Lee, about feeling like you might not speak the same language sometimes with some of the other, you know, traditional quote unquote comic book artists, where they're allowing maybe like shadows and other things to like help tell or fill in gaps, you know, and that kind of thing, and you leave little to the imagination. Something that I've noticed about like maybe not just this project that you're doing, but like your covers overall that you've been sharing, is your backgrounds are getting fucking insane. Like not just the foreground, not just the characters, but like you're going nuts with your backgrounds. Yeah, like, and I keep thinking to myself, like, that can't be easy. And so, is that a choice because you feel like you don't? Um, that's the language that you prefer, where you want to be as detailed as possible because that's what you like to see. The fans are getting a treat, getting all that art, but I have to imagine that is not easy for you to be as detailed like that, and it's insane.
I think it comes down to just like, I don't think about these any cover or even like interior stuff that I do. I don't ever think about it in terms of, oh, that's going to be a lot of work. You know, it's just like that if I have an idea, I kind of have to be obsessive about doing that idea, because that's like, to me, that's the cover gig. It's not like how little I draw or how much I draw, or oh, look, I'm a genius because I left white on the cover. You know what I mean? Like, I don't. It's not about that to me. It's about. I think a comic book cover should be working on three levels at all times. I think it should be something that grabs your attention. I think it should be something that tells a little bit of a story. You know, if even in a very subtle, quiet way. And I think it should be something that when you look at it, not everything maybe immediately has to, pop to the foreground. But the more you look at it, the more you'll involve yourself with it. You know what I mean? And that could be through detail or anything. You know, a lot of guys solve that problem their own way. You know what I mean? I like the toolbox that I'm using for whatever I do is, okay, so I how can I make this thing feel real but hyper real, to a certain extent? How can I kind of fool people into believing all this ridiculous shit? How do I do that? And at the same time, how do I make people look at the image and go, tell themselves the story of the image? You know what I mean? There's like even that Joker cover that's up on the screen now, like, it's a fairly simple image to me, but the fact that there's so much going on with the explosion of rocks and the mushroom cloud in the background, it makes it look very complicated. But in my head, like it really just comes down to this, like, cue the Pixies and everything, the world is ending and these two are crazy, and that's like that's who those characters are to me. You know what I mean? And so, that it's like how, whatever it takes, whatever.
This one I'm throwing up because now that you've posted it yourself.
Yeah, they told me I'm good. Actually, they told me, it's out there. You can
that one is so evil and awesome.
Is there any pushback on this cover?
No, man, no, not at all. It's like, they were on board.
Now that's a point to bring. Have you felt any change with the recent change of leadership at DC, or have you been unaffected by that?
Oh yeah, I mean, we talked about this, I think maybe last time or the time before I was on here. DC's a totally different place now. It's a totally different environment, and it's like I think I'm not saying anything that anybody else hasn't said already or everybody doesn't know already. But there's, that you're kind of witnessing a publishing company in the midst of like a hurricane. That's like the best way to describe them. Like, people are trying to survive. Like they're trying to keep their jobs, and they're trying to do good work, and I do believe that. I think they're like, people there want to do, the best stuff that they can. I think that the problems now is that, like, how can you make brave decisions in a time where things are going to come back and possibly you'll lose your job in a serious way for that. What to us could just be, okay, so they did a book where so and so did this. You know what I mean? That, like, it doesn't. I think that readers might even now be able to kind of feel that tension. You know what I mean? That you're seeing a company that, okay, like, I'll put it to you this way. So when did Batman Den come out? 2018 or 19? So 4 years ago, they pulled the book because of a shadowy dick. And now teenage characters' sexuality is like the forefront selling point to them of their books. So, like, you're witnessing a company that, like, have made that extreme of a change in 4 years. In 4 years' time, you know what I mean. So like, to me, you are witnessing this, like, hurricane going on of what do we do? Like, what, oh shit, that tree just flew through the window. Like, what do we do now? The house is falling apart, but we're still trying to soldier on. You know what I mean? We're trying to do what we can.
It seems like DC has to be more accepting to that, because it's more of a social. They're reacting to what's happening socially, and it's not an agenda. But what we hear in the news is also reflecting in what we're seeing in this rift and these change in the comics. And when you made that comment, I was thinking to myself, what if these covers were out back when Damn was out?
Right.
It would be totally shut down, or it would, they would have so much more of a rift. And you started little things like that, and even the Damn depiction of the dick, most of us didn't think it was a big deal, but obviously there were certain people on that executive level that flagged it immediately and shut it down. But I remember we spoke about it. It was that one person who was calling the shots, and that changed the whole trajectory and direction of Black Label.
I thought it was so wildly that, like, the thing that just totally it was totally, I didn't hear anything about it, but the last page on the first issue where you fucking defile a crucifix in a fucking church. Like, I remember seeing that last page.
No one said anything about that.
I was like, holy shit. Like, I remember seeing that page and I'm like, holy fucking shit. Like, they can do that? Like, okay, like, that's cool. And that was insane to me. Like, that
nobody bats an eye at that.
No one fucking said a word. I was like, he got away with it. Oh shit.
And now we're like at another where the pendulum swang in another way, and it's weird, man. It's like you're watching you're watching a place with some of, like, the most valuable IPs that company has at their fingertips kind of throw up their hands and go, does this work? Like, is this cool? Can we do this now? Like, it's and I don't, since I'm not really doing anything else for them other than covers at the moment, I don't even want to throw stones at them for that. You know what I mean? Because I think that it's just, it's such a complicated entertainment arena in general right now, across the board. You know what I mean? Like, people don't know how to deal with,
well, it's a complicated industry trying to handle complicated issues, and they're trying to, retain and attract new customers that they have a lot of competition with other mediums. And so they're trying to do whatever they can to attract customers. I get it. I see it. I understand what game they're trying to play. Sometimes I'm the audience, sometimes I'm not. And I just have to recognize which avenues I am the audience for and which ones I'm not. And, like, your book that's coming out, that is definitely one I am an audience for. And, us as readers and other people as readers just kind of, we need to figure out what we like, what we don't like. And, our purchases will kind of steer the company not just DC, but every publishing company, what direction, they feel that they need to go either on a content level or a social level, but
Totally, yeah.
Well, some of those things that they're trying, either the things are working or they're doing them at the right time. Because working at a comic shop, I am seeing over the past year, I would say, we've been seeing a big change in the demographic of our new customers that are coming in every day and every week. We're getting, over the past year, more teenage female customers coming in and opening up a pull list than we've had in years.
That's awesome. That's why I can't get behind necessarily the kind of, as much as sometimes I feel like the old man in the industry, it's like there's also that part of me that thinks exactly like Graham said, that I am not the audience for everything, but I was never the audience for everything. You know what I mean? Like when I was 14, I wasn't buying certain books because they weren't, they weren't appealing to me. But the one thing that I think everybody can agree with, or they should agree with, is the fact that if this really is, I don't believe it's a dying medium by any stretch of the road, but if this is something that has to evolve to survive, then we've got to throw spaghetti at the wall and see what sticks to a certain extent. You know what I mean? Like there's going to be awkward moments where people do things, and you know what? Maybe my book was one of those awkward moments. You know what I mean? Where some spaghetti was thrown at the wall and people were like, we don't want that. You know what I mean? So yeah. But this book too, I don't know what the response for this book will be. People might pick this up and go, this isn't a comic book. What is this? You know what I mean? So if anything else, I think like it's just a moment in the business where you just have to try things. You have to, like you said, try to grow that audience, and maybe that audience is going to change over time, and that's just the way, it has to do that to survive.
Did you have any favorites? And I know you did all of these and they kind of blend together, but did you have any favorite covers that you did on these?
Like, I think my favorite cover of the run was the kid one. The little kid one. I wanted to do Batman with the little kid for a long time. And now I do Joker with little kids, so that
that one was very powerful. I felt that sent a very powerful message that, here's a guy that, he's big, he's scary, but he's also a protective man. And, in the end, he's gonna, protect children. I thought that was a very powerful piece. I love that, and I reposted that.
Yeah, there was a couple in there that are stinkers, but they're one.
That one is
there. It is.
Yeah, just the image, but the colors. I mean, just geez, wow.
Yeah, I remember a couple of them. You telling me that you hated that I liked, like the one that was the close up of the cowl. I think you said you hated that one.
Oh, that one's the shit.
Yeah, that was like, because I needed that image at the beginning of the book. I needed that kind of fade in image of just the cowl, I needed that image. But man, it's like, I wish I'd thought of a better idea than that, there are those moments like with everything, where you're kind of like, I wasn't firing on all cylinders for sure in that moment. But there was some other covers that really kind of surprised me that I never liked the Riddler. I've always said I'm not a fan of that character, but that Riddler cover, that wasn't a bad cover. It could have there was definitely worse in there than that one. So there's definitely some surprises.
One that surprised me, you said you don't really speak the language of other comic artists, but issue 1050, where it has the Golden, Silver Age, and Bronze Age Batman with yours, I was like, dude, he's flexing on this. because you know you've got your hyper real version next to iconic comic versions. I was like, wow, see, he's showing people I can do whatever I want.
Any excuse to do Dick Sprang, man. You know, give me a whole issue. I'll do a whole issue of Dick Sprang inspired stuff. I love that guy's stuff so much.
Something that I felt like was so sick.
Ooh, yeah.
This stuff like this, the close-ups, this one of the close-up of in the Batmobile, and then also when he's riding on the fucking motorcycle. Oh, and the close-up on the motorcycle. God damn, I was like, holy shit, that looks so sick.
I just like part of him is the vehicle, right? So
Yeah.
Part of doing this run was just like, how can I do all the Batman iconography? You know, like you got to have him in the Batcave, you got to have him, you know, in the car, you got to have him jumping across the rooftops. You know, there's certain images you kind of have to do, and then it's like, okay, so how do I connect these? You know, and sometimes it really is as simple as he's driving. There's the Batmobile, you know, behind him in the next image. It can be as simple as that, you know.
It's awesome too because you draw a realistic Bruce Wayne that is not a small Bruce Wayne. So when you put him in some of these dynamic moments, it makes it even fucking crazier because you're thinking of like this linebacker that's jumping off rooftops or he's doing these things and you're like, God damn, like this guy's a monster, like running through like the night. Like imagine seeing this dude, like you look up and you see this fucking beast coming at you, you know, in the middle of the night. And it's just like, Jesus Christ.
Yeah, he's not 5'10", 175 pounds.
He's just gripping onto a rope, you know, like you see those proportions and you're like, man, this guy's climbing and every step is just very, you know, strong. But what I wanted to say before too is like the colors, to me, that's what the words are. Every time I see these covers, you know, that's your narrative, and that's something that just stops you at a glance, and you start filling in the story for yourself. And I think that's what the beauty is of all these pieces is it's open for interpretation as much as you provide this visual eye candy, but there's also a space for someone to really fill in the story, just like what we're seeing now, like. What is he looking at, or you know what happened that day, or what's going to happen in the next scene? So I think that's what the beauty of it is. Like as much as you give 80% of the visual, the other 20% is way more open to interpretation. So that's why it works as this beautiful book. And what we said before the show about like growing up watching looking at comics, sometimes you don't need the words. You know, it's the color, it's the pose, it's that sense of direction. That keeps us just looking over and over.
Totally agree. Yeah, totally agree. You know, I mean, it's kind of embarrassing to say, but I have a lot of books that I've never read. You know, comics. I mean, that I've never actually read, or I've read maybe 10 pages of it. You know what I mean? Like maybe it didn't grab me, the story didn't grab me, but the imagery does. You know, so. Right. Yeah,
it's a turnoff sometimes when you get lost in too many words because there's just so many good things on the page, and that's where I felt like when I started reading the Black Label, it's very digestible because it wasn't heavy on the words. It was really like taking you to the moment, and especially the fact that you have just this painterly, hyper realistic portrayal that is more important to the word than reading words.
Yeah, I definitely didn't think. I mean, I don't consider myself a real writer. You know, I think I'm a storyteller, and you know, if I can write something that gets the point across, I'm like I said, I'm not Neil Gaiman, that's for damn sure. But what I try to do is just make sure that the writing takes a backseat. You know what I mean? It's just there. It's just there in this book to kind of like the same way Noel did. It's there to direct you to a certain extent, but the voice of that narrator too is such that allows me to be a little, you know, less. He doesn't have to be a perfect writer. you know what I mean? Like you read those Jack the Ripper letters, and they're, you know, it's clearly not someone who's, you know, who just wrote Nostromus or something like that. You know what I mean? Like it's it should just be like a regular person making mistakes and crossing stuff out, and all that aspect of it too. I wanted to make sure it had this kind of readability even for a young person. You know what I mean? Very young person.
What I love about your depiction of Batman too is like you're not glorifying him. You're making him look like there's covers where he's not enjoying what he's doing. He's trying to take that one moment of he's exhausted.
Yeah.
And that makes him so much more humanistic. And you can tell that, in the majority of these covers, along with the colors, it's just setting that tone and that temperature for how he's feeling, whether he's in the Batmobile and you see a little slash on his mouth or anything where he's just, holding Robin, you see that agony and pain, but you're not glorifying who he is. And that's what I love about it.
Yeah, you're a very abusive artist to your character.
How dare you?
You guys watch rugby at all? Or rugby players, like when they get off the field and they're fucked up.
Yeah,
they're just fucked up. Like they look like they're smiling maybe because they won, but their eyes swollen and they've got like gashes on their knees and stuff like that. That's kind of how I think about Batman. He's like a rugby
badge.
And those guys are beasts, man. Like you see them in person and they're huge individuals. You know what I mean? Like it's not even like like their thighs is like two of me. You know what I mean? Like guys are massive and but it's like I always think of Batman, I guess, in that way, where it's like a rugby player, I guess.
It's funny how known you've become for Batman stuff over recent years, but there were a lot of things that you were well known for prior to a lot of your Batman stuff, like the Hellblazer run that you did, and you even came back to that recently. I think it was Tom Taylor's Black Label book that you did this cover for. And that you did 20 something covers for Hellblazer back on that old run too.
I think I did 33.
Wow.
Yeah. I did 30 over 30.
Get it straight, Robin.
I don't remember. You could be right, actually. I could be wrong.
33.
And I know the only thing that really separated that from your detective run is that I know you weren't doing a cover for every issue back on those. You would do a couple here, and then one would be someone else, and then a few more from you.
I don't even remember at that point in time. I know that it was like me. It was a difficult gig just because of all the guys who'd come before, and there was all this kind of pressure. Like Tim Bradstreet had just done it, and Glenn Fabry and Dave McKean. Like Hellblazer had a crazy high quality level of covers. It was intimidating, especially back then, because I think I was like 26 when I took that book over, and I certainly didn't really know what I was doing. I was kind of figuring it out on each cover, but I just like that character. Like any excuse to do that character.
And the characters all that Vertigo stuff. There was the Vertigo wraparound cover you did recently. This is just nuts.
That was for Spain, the Spanish company. Yeah, that was fun. That was fun. People kept asking me like, well, "What about this character? Or what about this character?" Like I missed a lot of, I guess, a lot of the kind of main, like the Extremist and all that kind of stuff, Enigma, all those initial Vertigo characters. But yeah, I was just like, man, I don't know how much more I can fit. I don't know how much more we can fit in that image.
Swampy in the back, so sick.
Yeah, very cool. Now, have you been able to watch the Sandman series? We didn't talk about that yet.
I haven't. I'm behind on everything, man. I haven't seen any of the new. Stuff. How is it?
I liked it a lot. They did a really good job with it. with the initial episodes for one thing, and then yesterday they surprised everyone dropping an extra episode completely unannounced. They just put it out. So this was a two-parter. So the first part of it was animated because the first part was Dream of a Thousand Cats.
Yeah.
And then, I was very, very pleasantly surprised. Well, I expected that they would touch on that sometime. I figured we would get that in like season 2 or 3 kind of thing.
Right.
So they did that animated, which, for obvious reasons. But the second part of it and the longer part of this, hour or something episode was Calliope. So that's the one where the muse had been sort of imprisoned by the author for decades to be his muse and get him success, and then we saw her get transferred over to the next author who was going to abuse her for the same reasons. But very cool. Just out of nowhere, they dropped in another episode on us.
Who's the dude who did the Corinthian? He's good.
I forget his name. I really didn't know him from anything else prior to that, but and they did a good job with only sparingly showing his eyes, showing him take off the shades and revealing who he was underneath. But they did a really good job. And I mentioned this when we were just texting. James Tynan is doing a very cool Corinthian story in Nightmare Country right now. And I think that's a great time that they should be doing more of these characters, giving them new stories.
Yeah, I mean, I wonder what they'll do. It just all depends on, I think, their film plans too. Who knows what's going on. I mean, it's like I was saying, it's like they'll do. I'm surprised they didn't have more Sandman related books to kind of support this. I guess they have all the originals. You know what I mean? Like they can resell all the originals, but
they have put out the original Sandman run came out in new 4-volume format that collected the first 75 issues through 4 volumes, and now there's a 5th volume coming out that I think collects Overture and a few other things. So they're definitely cashing in on that.
I'll definitely watch it at some point or another. I'll get to it for sure. I mean,
there are points in the show where they're literally almost going line for line with the books.
Oh yeah, for sure.
Yeah.
And one of the episodes, so the death episode, The Sound of Her Wings, that's as good an episode as I have seen of any show. Very well done. But you talked about being behind on watching things like that. You're at least knee deep in some other things you're working on. Do you want to talk about anything about at least the one other project that you've been working on?
Oh man, I would love to. They're gonna announce it on when September though, sometime in September. So it's soon. They'll drop it soon. And then I can talk a lot more about it. It's I wish I could.
Is there
it's
something?
It's out there. Like we can say who it's with because you've both talked about it. He's posted about it as well.
Yeah,
So we can say that it's Mattson Tomlin who wrote Batman the Imposter, and he was one of the screenwriters who worked with Matt Reeves throughout part one of the drafts of the Batman.
Very nice.
He's just starting to do comics. So like he did The Imposter, and I think he's going to do more comic book stuff for sure. But mostly he's done film work, and he's working on the Berserker movie.
The Keanu Reeves one. That's pretty crazy. Seeing him on stage with Keanu at San Diego, like, hey, I know that guy.
Yeah, he's just a really exciting writer. I have this weird thing with it. Was the same with Brian when I first started working with Brian, where I just get this weird feeling, and you know, Brian had done like 6 issues of 100 Bullets, and I was like, this is the guy. You know, I want to work with this guy. With Mattson, we were following each other on Instagram, and I was watching the stuff that he was posting. Like, he posts stills from movies.
Yeah.
And I was like, man, this guy's got awesome taste. And he was posting stuff, you know, like some Korean films that I love, and just had really, really, really good taste. And, you know, that's where the kind of conversation between us started. And, you know, he's a big comic book fan. So typically, like, you get a lot of these guys who want to have things work the other way. You know, like, they want to do comics and then hopefully get those made into movies. Matt's is like, I don't want to say the opposite, but kind of, where it's like he loves comics, you know, and he knows comics. So it's like he wants to work in the comic medium, which I thought was cool, because it's not like, oh, let's do this project and get a movie made. It's like, let's see what comics can do, you know, like, let's see how this medium how he can work within this medium, you know, and what we're doing is pretty different from what he did with Andrea, you know. So it's been cool to see him jump in the deep end and just start swimming, you know. Like, he's really it's great to work with someone like that.
Yeah, we did a really deep dive into The Imposter. It's a long episode. I don't know if you want to go back and find it, but we love that story. So yeah, we're definitely looking forward to your new project with him.
It's always cool.
It's going to be fun to see what he does in the future. Even, you know, with I'm sure he and Andrea will do something else. You know what I mean? Like, I think The Imposter went really, really well. So you know, I think that there's going to be a lot of cool stuff we'll see from him, just comic book wise. You know what I mean? Like in the future. Not to mention, you know, stuff like the Berserker movie. So yeah.
And what's interesting with what you guys are doing is I don't think we can say the publisher yet, but it's creator owned, so that means the freedom that the two of you will have is complete, pretty much.
Yeah, it's Boom. I've definitely I spilled the beans on that.
Okay, well, I didn't know if we could say it or not.
No, they were there. You know, like, afterwards, everybody was like, "You probably shouldn't have done that." Until and I was like, "Yeah, you're
well, I did."
Yeah, it's being done. It's being done through Boom. So yeah, it's like I said, it's totally different from anything I've ever done. Everything about it. The story's totally different. Yeah, I hesitate to say too much about it yet, but you know, because I know Boom is, I think they really want to be responsible to kind of like introduce this project to people. You know what I mean? They're excited about it, which is good. It's awesome to work for a company that is into it. Like, you know, like, working for someone who's really into it is cool. You know, like, and they've got a lot of stuff right now, like Berserker being one of them, but also Something Is Killing the Children, and they've had a good year, you know, or years, I should say, with this
a lot of good stuff.
Yeah.
So. And I like the way they operate. I like Ross a lot too, and yeah, it's cool to see you guys working with them.
Yeah, it's been fun. Mattson knows those guys pretty well, you know, and it was really when we started pitching the book, you know, he was really the one who said, let's take it to Boom. And so yeah, that's really his it was his idea, you know. So again, a good idea. So yeah, in a month, all of this, of course, you know, after, like, the book comes out after Fan Expo, everything else comes out.
So is it 100% complete already, or is it a title you'll be ongoing?
No, it's not going to be an ongoing monthly book.
Okay.
It's going to be it'll definitely be kind of a limited series, but it's not going to have the kind of typical, you know, publishing schedule.
Gotcha.
It's more of like a French. It'll be more French style, I think, in that way, where the format and like the rate of publication will be slightly different for American audiences for sure. But
It'll come out when it comes out.
Oh, there's definitely a schedule,
like some of the Black Label books.
Like I'll just say this: the first issue is definitely done.
Okay.
So that's done, and it's we're trying to figure out. Like I said before, this is a moment in time where you just kind of have to try shit. You have to see what works and what doesn't, and that's what we're doing here too. Let's see if it works.
Very cool.
And since we're talking about this, for anyone who will be interested to see and hear more of it, I have chatted with Mattson, and when the time comes that you guys are really free to talk about that, we talked about doing an episode with the two of you coming on here to chat about that book.
Oh, that would be cool. Yeah, Mattson. Yeah, especially because Mattson loved to talk about the imposter too. I'm sure, like he's that would be cool for sure for him. Yeah.
Have you? I know you've been like teasing it. I don't know if I've seen any official announcement yet. Has there been? I know people are like bummed after they've heard, your detective covers are ending. But has there been an official announcement about the kind of next ongoing thing, really, like that's similar?
I'm doing these Joker covers, and I don't know if that's like a limited series or is it? I don't know. Is it an ongoing? Have they announced that?
You're doing covers on it. That's all I care about.
Yeah, I don't even know, man. I'm happy to do them. So if it's, I don't know if it'll be an ongoing book, because did they have another series that just came out too that ended, and this is like part 2 or season 2 or something like that? Am I
the current Joker? I could be wrong, but did it end at book number 15, the one that Guillaume was drawing? And
exactly.
That's all that just ended.
The Joker, the Man Who Stopped Laughing, is listed as an ongoing.
Oh, okay, all right. Okay.
Is it a Black Label or is it regular DC?
I believe that is just a regular DC. I don't think it's a Black Label.
Yeah, maybe if we pump up the sales with your covers, they'll keep that one going.
Yeah, I fly under the radar, man. Like I don't. There's some guys I think whose cover stuff, like what's the word they use? Like what is it? Switch the needle or changes the? What's the word they use?
Move the needle.
Move the needle.
Yeah.
Roman Reigns.
Yeah, I don't think those detective comics pretty much flew under the radar from what I understood. Like I think they definitely had their audience, but it wasn't like some of the other bigger. What's the guy? Art Germ. It's like I know his stuff. It's like you put Art Germ on a book, and it like the sales actually are affected by that. You know what I mean? I don't think I'm there yet, but
it's interesting.
Which is bizarre to me.
I don't. That's crazy.
I'll grab Art Germ covers here and there if I like a particular one, but your detective run, I grabbed every one of those.
Everyone.
I think I'm missing maybe 3. Who's the artist? So what's her name? Soiza.
Meka Sozo.
She's done like what 2 covers, and they're both like market value at like 80 now or something.
Oh, she's done like half a dozen Catwoman covers now, in addition to, but she had done some Dynamite books and things like that before as well. She's done a lot of stuff, but yeah, she really got put on the map with those Catwoman covers that just exploded.
It's interesting to see like whose stuff like just for whatever reason just goes nuts. And
yeah, like for a while, Peach Momoko's covers were the thing. Before that was Art Germ, and
yeah, Waleed, not so many people Gramps gets naked for and puts their covers on the floor, and you're one of many. You're one of only a few I've heard that about. So there's that.
I put on some jazz.
Yeah. I like Josh Middleton. I like the stuff.
He's excellent.
It's awesome.
Yeah, he just had another Ivy cover come out too, and yeah, his are really good.
I gotta find that. Yeah, he's just stuff's just elegant and beautifully done.
And I will still grab almost any book that has an Adam Hughes cover.
Oh yeah, Adam's the man. You know, like he's just one of the best. Period. Best there is. Yeah, there's some good people doing covers though. That's for sure. It's you know, it's I don't want to say competitive because everybody does kind of their own thing to a certain extent with a few exceptions, but you know, there's just like really, really good guys doing cover stuff right now.
You've been doing some pretty consistent Star Wars bounty hunter stuff.
Oh yeah.
But then you also did some kick-ass, like you did a Peter Spitterman.
Spitterman.
Yeah. Peter Spitterman, and you mentioned, I saw that you were talking to, like, maybe I'll do some Marvel stuff. Is there any talks right now about that, or is that just very, very loose?
Yeah, loose conversation, but there's some. I've never really done anything for Marvel other than a smattering of things, covers here and there. You know, like I did 6 Daredevil covers years ago. I did those Han Solo covers. Got fired from those covers, so I didn't.
What?
Think, yeah, they fired me. Lucasfilm fired me, man.
Lucasfilm. What'd you do?
Because I drew that cover with Han Solo
shooting first.
Yeah, I drew that cover with them all. Like they won't republish that outside of no other foreign publisher can republish that.
That cover's still on. That cover's still on Splash Page Art. I think about buying it all the time.
Do it now, bro. You heard him. You heard it. Why now?
It's the cover. It's the cover that I was supposed to do the whole run of those covers, and the editor was like, I turned in the 3rd cover, and she was like, they want to go in a different direction.
Whoa.
Like, okay.
Whoa, you might have just convinced me.
Was it the one with Greedo on the dead in front of him?
Yeah, he's got like his leg up. It's it's like he's got dead aliens around him, and I guess Lucasfilm not down with that anymore. You know,
yeah, because it technically goes against their what do you call it? The new Lucas or the new Star Wars. Because like the special edition, Greedo shoots first, so technically Han he shoots in self-defense or whatever.
That's it. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, I was surprised when I got the bounty hunter gig because I thought I was on the Lucasfilm blacklist.
Wow.
But I guess things change there equally as rapidly as at other places, at least in terms of people working there.
Yeah.
But I just did those because I did those for one cover. I just really wanted to draw someone in carbonite. That's the only reason why I did those covers, to eventually be able to do one character in carbonite. That was not smart, but whatever.
But I love the suit, the suit detail in the Peter Spitterman cover. And I got to get the black and white, and then they have the Virgin in the black and white, which looks amazing too. But yeah, it's really cool to see Spider-Man in the suit. The detail of the suit is not something they normally. Everyone kind of does the costumes now, skin tight and very almost as if it's skin and it's not a suit. I love seeing
Spider-Man.
Wrong podcast, bro.
You mean Spitterman?
I grew up with Nicholas Hammond, man. That was
yes.
the Spider-Man I grew up with.
Yes.
Cue the disco porno intro music. And
yes.
that's what I grew up with. So that for sure. I remember he wore the web shooters outside, which I thought was super cool.
Super cool. Had a utility belt. Super cool.
Yeah. So that's kind of where. Yeah, there's that.
Oh yeah,
that was quick. Robin's quick. Good job, Jamie. Bring that up, Jamie.
I love this cover.
Do it.
At the cart, let's see it.
No. Yeah, that was. I like more Spider-Man. Spider-Man's fun.
Hell yeah, man! He looks cool when you do him.
I wanted to ask, I guess, a little geeky question because, with your art, you can see through the years how you've, developed your style and are constantly tweaking and improving. And I found this cover of Batman Gotham Knights 50 with the return of Hush.
Oh God, yeah. Yeah. Mm-hmm.
Was this more like traditional art, or was this kind
That
of
was
the beginnings
painting.
of your? That was painting. Okay.
That was
Damn.
painting. Not the background. The background was added afterwards. That painting has a white background. And I think the original has a white background. And then they needed Hush on the cover, and so at that point in time, I just added it digital. It was a last minute thing.
Okay.
But yeah, that was a painting. That was back when I thought I was gonna be able to actually do that stuff by hand, and then 2 weeks later for a cover, go, this probably isn't the way to go about this, because I can't do 2 covers a month. It's
right. Yeah. Wow.
God, look at that. That's so good. That Daredevil, Peter Spiderman.
Spiderman. Yeah, there's some people that really like that kind of take on the costume. Other people don't. I've noticed that. Some people, they're like, why can you see his neck? And I'm just like, because you remember in the Steve Ditko comics, he was always pulling his mask off the top of. Now he does it in the movies, and but I'm that annoying guy in the audience going, that doesn't work. There's no line where the mask connects to the shirt. Like that's fake.
Once he puts the mask back on, it just magically joins onto the suit.
It's nanotech, guys. You don't understand. Nanotech.
I hate those movie suits, man. I think they're so bad. Like,
everything's an Iron Man suit, a nanotech Iron Man suit now.
So bad. Like, it's just, I would love to be able to get into that stuff. I just can't, man. I can't. I haven't seen any of those new Spider-Man. And people tell me they're good too. I can't get on board.
I don't know. Like the last one was just 100% fan service. So good depends on what your definition of good is. It's basically was like, oh, this is what you wanted. Here, have this. As far as like a good story and movie, debatable, but
yeah, I can't. I'm that guy who still thinks that Spider-Man should be about a kid who everything he does is like he does a good thing and he still gets smacked in the face. You know what I mean?
Yeah, he's poor.
I think Spider-Man should be like not a downer necessarily, but it should just be like they need, and Marvel will never do this. They need a really they need someone like the Safdie brothers to do a Spider-Man movie. You know what I mean? Like where it's like he's a New York kid, so none of those actors ever come across to me as like a New York kid. There's something intangible about New York people. You know what I mean? Like they have an attitude. They have like
grit.
Everything about them is unique.
And they never cast anyone who genuinely looks like they would be picked on in school. Obviously it's Hollywood, so they have to cast these good-looking people, but it's always like the 80s or 90s movie where like, the nerdy girl was nerdy because she had glasses, but then someone realizes, oh wait, when you take off her glasses, she's beautiful.
Super hot.
And that's what all of these Peter Parkers are. They're like, well, he's nerdy until, oh wait, now he's been bitten by a spider and he's shredded, and we notice that he's good looking now. And they exactly, like they never have someone who you can feel like got picked on in school.
And he's always a nerd. Right? He's never weird. Like when I read those first issues, like the Ditko Stanley issues, I always felt like he's a weirdo. Like not so much that he was a nerd, but like he was that guy in school that you thought that guy has either got bodies in his basement or he's just he's like
Marty McFly's dad or something,
Yeah. He's just a weirdo, man. Like you don't, it's like when you see those pictures of Ditko and like his high school photo. Have you guys seen that? It's fucking crazy. He looks just like the Peter Parker who drew it. Like, just like it. And then you think about Steve Ditko and what he became later on in life, and how everybody who knew him was just like, there's those stories about him asking out what's her name, Flo, the secretary at Marvel or whatever at the time, and getting turned down. And then who was it? Like one of the other freelancers at the time asked her out and started dating her, and so he took it like really badly. Like that to me is like Peter Parker. You know what I mean? Like he's the guy.
That's his origin story.
Yeah, I mean, you know, that should be what Spider-Man is, and now he's like this lovable nerd. Yeah, there you go. Like that's it. Like he's like when you look at those early issues, how he drew Spider-Man, that's like kind of what he looks like.
Yeah,
you know?
like that with a sweater vest over. Like he's wearing like a sweater vest. He has like a sweater vest like in his like button-down shirt with his tie under the sweater vest.
We need to give him a pocket protector, you know, like make him nerd.
Yeah. And I mean, from what I understand about Ditko, he was no joke, man. Like if you got on his bad side, he was like you had X's in your eyes. You know what I mean? Like he was not an easy dude to get along with. And so you think about like all those Flash Thompson and all those guys, you know, like all those early characters in those early issues. And if you look at it through the perspective of Steve Ditko, that becomes a very different character, a very different book than the way they've kind of tilted it these days. And yeah, man, like, you know, so like Aunt May is like a Queens chick. Come on. Like, you know, they always make her like this, like, oh, I'm Aunt May. You know, like she's like, I'm like, give me a break. Aunt May's got, you know, I don't know. She's like, they never give it the personality I think that it should have.
And what have they been doing with Flash Thompson in the movies? Like,
oh, I don't know.
With each progressive film franchise, he's become smaller and less of what he was. You know, like the Tobey Maguire movie, I think Joe Manganiello played him. And now he's this, you know, just a small kid who's in like all the same clubs that Peter's in.
Trying to get into MIT.
Academic.
Yeah. And they're almost like technically friends.
Yeah. Like he razzes them a bit, but yeah, they're kind of pals. They're pals in the way that Jim and Dwight are friends in The Office.
Marvel has a no bullying policy now, so
yeah, even for the bad guys.
I don't know.
It definitely seems like it.
God, I could believe that.
It feels like it in the
totally
movies.
believe that. That's how fucking crazy it is.
I mean, now at my job, like we design Marvel stuff, and Deadpool can't have any guns. Like,
whoa!
Yeah, not that I really care, but yeah, like one time I had to draw like a flag coming out of his gun, and I'm just like, they're literally rejecting their own stuff.
Yeah.
So luckily,
you can have pouches though, all right? Pouches are okay.
Pouches, maybe.
Encouraged.
Oh, I'm gonna have to check those pouches.
Didn't Lee? I remember like, I was like talking to you about I think it was a Justice League Dark cover, I think, and it was like Constantine, Swamp Thing, and then like Zatanna's in the front, and then I didn't even realize she's wearing pants or shorts because they asked you to not have her in fishnets.
Yep. Yeah.
That's wild.
Yeah, the original version that covers her in fishnets, and they were like, no.
Whoa.
this is not happening.
Yeah.
I have like a number of those weird stories, like, you know, that Superman cover I just did too, like the Superman with the bullets bouncing off him, and like that is now the third Superman image that I've had to alter anatomically, where I'm just like, wow, dude, like what am I doing that's odd here in that with Superman? But they take issue with it. Maybe it's because I always draw them with the red undies too, so that could be part of it. But yeah, there's like they're very particular about cleavage now, guns. Yeah, that.
What was their note on this one?
Like the package, like they want Ken doll. You know what I mean? Like totally. And so I was just like, all right, I'll, you know, whatever. I'm done arguing that. But yeah, Constantine, that Prime 1 statue cannot have a cigarette, like all that kind of stuff.
Wow.
Like, can't do any of that. Like I just did the Red Hood on a cover. Red Hood can't have guns.
Wow, dude.
Yeah,
I felt like some of that had backed off because for a while, what we were hearing is that DC wasn't licensing statues even to have guns. But Prime 1, I saw Jason Fabek posted the Prime 1 statue that they gave him, the Grim Knight, and he's all gunned the fuck up.
Yeah.
I think you just can't have it on the box now, maybe. But I'm curious what they did to the packaging.
Interesting.
Yeah, it's crazy, man. I mean, I wonder who they're protecting. Really, at the end of the day, it's like.
I love how Todd McFarlane. We did with the figures, and they said we can't have the guns and the figures. So here's what we're just gonna do a fucking pack where you get all the fucking guns in the pack. When it's not DC, it's just a Todd McFarlane gun pack. So that's what he did. He released a pack. It was just it was an accessory pack with just a fucking arsenal, and they all fit the DC his DC figures.
Genius.
Well, I mean, yeah. Speaking of that, any commentary on your new line of figures for the
Page Punchers?
Page Punchers, the Black Adam.
How to address this?
Hey!
Oh, okay.
I love this Batman figure.
I appreciate it. I think they're fucking horrendous. But I was told that was going to be a collaboration, and I was like, "Cool, a collaboration sounds good." So I did designs, and I think I did like a cover for them, which I haven't posted it because I don't think it's very good. But I did a poster or a cover for this comic book they wanted to include, which again I thought was a great idea. Like give the kids comics and a toy at the same time.
Yeah, there's no.
So I did those designs, and then I didn't hear anything, and I guess I'm used to guys like Prime 1 who will send you the 3D sculpt, and they'll send you you can give notes, and they have you can definitely tweak things in process, and that I guess that's just not the case. McFarlane they just do their thing, and then whatever comes out comes out. And so at the end of the day, it's not collaboration. It's just they just took what they wanted from those designs and threw out the rest, and did kind of their own thing. I think Batman looks like he's farting. I think Superman. Superman just looks strangely like he was on Saved by the Bell or some show like that. You know what I mean? He has that look to him where he's like he should have been on a '90s teen show or something. Yeah, that was disappointing.
I feel like they have the statues do a good job of it because they just have the size and the ability to get really detailed, because your stuff is so detailed and so realistic that to try to put it down on such a small scale like that is impossible to capture just that flavor that you get. But like there are dudes who do like customization, like 112 and 1/6 stuff that I think you've either posted or we've talked or stuff that you've seen where at least there's a Joker. There's like a Joker.
Yeah, that's so awesome. That Barry Keoghan Joker toy.
Yeah.
Out of this world. Yeah, that guy's great.
Yeah, there's the customization. Obviously these guys have way more time and they're able to do this stuff custom, so it's going to look much better and more detailed. But that's the only stuff I've seen that gets anywhere close to. If it's not a Prime 1 studio, if it's not something that massive, it's something like a custom figure, because your stuff is just too detailed. Like it's
really hard for it to translate.
Yeah, massive quantity.
And I think there's some guys who choose stuff translate really good. Like Jorge Jimenez's stuff. Those statues Prime 1 did with him are awesome. There's some guys who their style is really that kind of perfect mix of, okay, it's going to work for a smaller toy, it's going to work for a bigger statue. I think my stuff at the end of the day, it's like you said, it's hard to do small. One of the limitations of what I do is that it's like if you want to do big statues, you can with the time that they take, I should say, at Prime 1, because they take a lot longer. The development process is a lot more intense, but I always saw what Todd was doing and thought, this is cool. These are cool toys for the size that they're at. They're really well done. I remember back in the day, like he was the first to kind of bring those super detailed toys out, at least in my memory. So I thought it would be a cool little side project in it. Yeah, it kind of blew up in my face, but what are you gonna do? You can't win them all.
Did your art is your art in the packaging, or is it in the comic book there, Gramps? Do you know if is that the case with the is
Well,
there
it
anything
comes
else Lee Bermejo in that thing?
The comic. And
Yeah,
you
the
see it on the back.
It's a
Oh, the
Black Adam
Shazam. Or
crossover.
yeah. Okay.
But the front is just a full window with the figure, and you get a.
He totally looks like he's farting. It's like he looks like he's got this look on his face like he stopped mid
fart,
mid walk, and he's like, kind of a baby, you know, babies when they're waddling around and they stop and shit.
Maybe I'll do a little toy photo with
There you
that
go.
inspiration.
I like to think that maybe he's swimming and he got scared because he heard that rumor that if you fart in the water, like water will go up your butt and then you'll drown.
I think look at Constantine there. I think Constantine looks like, first of all, he looks like he's got a wig.
Yeah, that's someone cosplaying as Constantine.
And I like how low his pecs are in the shirt too. Like he's
got a lot of neck. Okay.
But Batman totally in that picture looks like he just farted. He's like, or like somebody else farted and he just smelled. You know, he just like.
He's disgusted.
Thank you, bro.
Yeah. That Black Adam looks. Yeah, it looks like that's an interesting Black Adam head.
I don't know why they gave him those undies, man. My design didn't have those undies. I guess they just felt like he had to have gold undies. You know? Is
that maybe the movie has that?
I don't think so, because I did a cover for those, so I got to see all the behind the scenes photos. Yes, and I don't think he has undies.
Oh yeah, that Black Adam cover with him and versus Hawkman.
Yeah,
dude. That thing looks sexual. That is like just charged with like because it's funny because it's interesting. The Rock is such a massive presence. Like I'm still having a hard time like separating it's The Rock, but in that cover, that's probably the first thing I've seen where like where I say Rock as Black Adam looks fucking cool. That cover, I was like, all right, that looks fucking cool. Yeah, dude. Yeah, cool.
What I'm really curious about with that movie is The Rock is like making this big deal about Black Adam kills, right? Like, how cool is that? He's a superhero that kills. Part of me wants to really ask him, like, dude, do you really think this is like a new thing? Do you think this is new, what you're pushing? Like, how tone deaf is that? Like, where he's just, that's what's cool, I guess. Black Adam, he doesn't take any shit from anyone.
He's coming off of the Jungle Cruise. That's why.
Right.
He's coming off of that Disney wave. So to him, this is something new.
Right.
Or the DC Pets movie.
As long as he doesn't say the hierarchy of power in the DC universe is about to change. As long as he doesn't say that anymore.
For the millionth time.
Or in the movie.
I'll tell you this much. If the hierarchy of power doesn't change, I'm going to be really fucking disappointed. Because he's been saying it so much that, and I'm interested to see what the hell that means. Like, I'm wondering, like, he's such a big name. Are they going to use him in this film as kind of like the new umbrella to just branch everything off of? Maybe.
Yeah.
Maybe. Yeah. Who knows? Who knows, man?
It's going to do $1.5 billion, I'm sure. So we'll see.
The thing about The Rock, even if it's a piece of shit, so many people go see his movies.
Yeah.
That's what I'm worried about is like, okay, like movie, it could be a piece of shit and it's still going to make a ton of money. So we're just going to get more of whatever that is.
Right. Yeah.
The trailer's pretty damn good.
Yeah.
Have we talked to you
new guy
since,
in charge is about to scrap the Black Adam movie.
Have we talked to you since the Batman stuff came out?
I think so. Didn't we talk about it?
Yeah, I feel like we did talk about the movie. Yeah.
We did.
Yeah. Still cool though.
Yeah. The Batgirl thing was kind of crazy, but
yeah, because it was done pretty much.
Yeah,
that's wild to hear.
Yeah, and Keaton was in it, so
And then the Flash movie got into trouble too because Ezra Miller decided to go psycho holiday.
Yeah, they gotta. I don't know. Who knows, man? Who knows what's gonna happen? What's gonna happen there? Like I said, it's a hurricane. Like they're just trying to live through it. You know, it's like the house keeps, pieces keep flying off. Like,
and it's crazy because like the publishing is in kind of disarray, and then so they've been pushing for like the movies and the shows to kind of help like carry it, and then now the fucking movie is in absolute disarray. Like,
right.
It's just gonna trickle down.
Yeah, and after the Batman, it's like, man, that movie did really well, and to boot, like, I loved it. So I mean, I think that if you have that, it's not it wasn't a win, I guess, in the way they calculate wins, which is $1 billion or whatever. That's how I think how they look at it. But how can that not have been a kind of sign to them of, oh, look, the entirety of our slate doesn't resemble anything, what the movies that are making us the money aside from Aquaman, are doing.
Yeah. And most of those are the ones that you give the creator the control, and then he tells you just back the fuck off, let me do my thing, and you let him do his thing, and then that's what you get. You get something really it really hits home for a lot of people, and that's what is, I think, lasting. And then I don't know, they gotta sell underwear, they gotta sell lunchboxes, so
it's I think it's an interesting choice that they are allowing the Joker sequel to go as the musical idea. I think it's cool, and I have a strange feeling that they'll nail it, but it's surprising that they let that go.
Yeah, it's wild. It's a wild idea.
Yeah, who knows, man? When you make that much money, you get a lot of, obviously, carte blanche. I'm sure they can, if that first movie hadn't made $1 billion, I doubt they would be making a musical sequel. But
and that's another movie that even regardless of how the final product comes out, again, I think I have a feeling that they're going to nail it. I don't think they would have opted for a musical unless they had a great idea for it. But even regardless of how it comes out, that's going to make money between the success of the first one and just Lady Gaga on her own.
Yeah.
Oh, because she's got her own. Yeah, she's got her own she has her own army of fans.
Yeah. So there are however many million people will go see that movie just because she's in it.
I just think it's funny that they're doing a musical with Joaquin Phoenix as Joker when they had what's his
Jared
name?
Leto.
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
he's like my dream.
Of course, he'd probably just lip sync the whole way through it anyway.
Oh man, yeah, it's who knows, man? Like I said, who knows? It's such a precarious time. If they shit can an entire finished movie,
that's crazy.
How
bad must it have been? That's what I want to know. That makes me want to watch it.
Pretty bad.
You finished it, and then you have Michael Keaton in a bat suit in that movie, and it's that bad where you wouldn't even let that I want to see how bad it was. Please let me see it.
That it may be actually a very good thing, because this preserves Keaton's legacy instead of just shitting on it.
Yeah.
They'll release it in some form later on down the road.
Hopefully someone steals it and releases it online.
Oh, how crazy would that be if it leaked? That would be insane.
Like the Deadpool, that Deadpool trailer leaked, and that's what led to them getting the momentum to actually get the movie going again. Yeah, it's just it's crazy. I just can't believe it. How bad it was versus what. It doesn't matter. You paid these people. People got up at 2 a.m. to brew coffee for the crew to make a movie. They turn into performance. It's crazy to think they just fucking scrapped an entire movie. That's nuts.
Mm-hmm.
Crazy.
It's definitely a tax write-off.
Oh God,
well,
Jesus!
I wasn't really all that surprised, because the all the planning, all the decision making was made under the former regime. You know, since they did the merger with Discovery, new management, new ownership's going to say,
they didn't want to spend the money to keep.
No, we're not going to spend the money to promote this.
Yeah, that's
not
what was
ours,
left.
and we don't like it, so we're not going to put our name on it.
Yeah, well,
So-
it also like I guess that was also kind of like a breakaway, and it's like because that was Batgirl, so that was breaking away into its. I mean, it had a lot of really confusing parts, I guess, if you're not an average like if you're just an average moviegoer, if you're just an average comic fan, like okay, wait, Keaton's over here, there's a Batman over here, and there's Batgirl over here, J.K. Rowling's, J.K. Simmons is Gordon, but then over here you got this and this and this, and so I think that's maybe what the dudes were in charge. You know, they're old boomer guys coming in. You're like, what the fuck is this? This is why is Gordon over here? Why is this Batman over here? But then there's another one over here. No, we're just gonna get rid of it. You know,
that should be your next impression. Is Zaslav? You should have. That.
I gotta figure it out.
Well, I haven't heard him speak yet, so Tom could do any voice and I'll buy it.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah. The next one should just be Tom. It does all of us and impressions of all of us. You could just do your own podcast.
Well, when we had Todd McFarlane on, the first thing Sean Murphy told me was, "You guys didn't have Todd on. That was you guys doing impressions."
I'm waiting for Tom to use that idea and just call it the Tomcast, and he just interviews himself doing other people.
Yeah, I got people. A couple of people have asked me to figure out Liefeld. I got to figure that one out. I attempted a while back. I just abandoned it. I have to start practicing more.
He's hard. He's really hard because he's got Todd. Yeah, Todd has that kind of like he's got marbles in his mouth. You know, like
yeah, in his brain too.
Todd McFarlane is, for me, it's easy because it almost as if it's like he's always speaking from he's always talking from his lips. The front here, it's just like you just put everything up at the front of your lips, and you just throw a comic book, you throw a page punchers, you kind of do a little nasally, and you just push it out from the lips. It's like it's there. Baseball, Mark McGuire ball, Mark McGuire baseball. You know.
Yeah, that's what everyone needs. As long as the voice has something you can exaggerate, then yeah, it works.
Thank you guys all for having me. I appreciate it. It's always cool to chit chat.
Yeah, we appreciate you coming back to take the time. Dear Detective is in stores September 6th. Go get both covers. Don't be a dick. Just get both of them.
Thanks for selling this book way better than I can.
Alex, awesome.
Thank you for putting it together, and we look forward to everyone out there in the world getting it in their hands. But thanks again. Thanks for listening. That was Bat Force Radio. That was Bermejo, and we'll see you next time.